made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Imaging Services, Chiro Thin, Universal Tractioning Systems, Chiro Moguls, Zingit Solutions, Dr. Pete Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Everest Coaching Systems, Rhino Coaching, 5-Star Management, The Goodman Factor, Chiro Health USA, Bax Max, Mahalo Wellness, and Chiro Expert. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 108 of Chiro Hustle. I am your co-host Luke. Here's your host, Jim.
Hey everybody, so today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Greg Pursley. And if you want to know more about where the chiropractic profession is going and has gone, stay tuned. All right, so Dr. Greg, tell us your chiropractic story and what really influenced you to become a chiropractor.
Well, back in high school, it was my junior year, and I took a tour to Logan Chiropractic College, which is now Logan University. And so I basically we went through the cadaver lab, we went through some mock palpation stuff, and I thought it was really cool. Not too long after that, my chiropractor, I followed him there, and I got to see him get hooked up to muscle stim, my first adjustment I saw, and I thought that was not too long after that. I remember I went to some hockey game, and the chiropractor was the trainer. And it was like those three things combined. I love hockey, and it just all said, that's what I want to be. I was 16, a junior in high school, and that's what I went with.
So what would you say makes you unique in the chiropractic world?
What makes me unique is I really don't stop, and I constantly search for better things for the patients. I know a lot of chiropractors that I've spoken with and observed, they kind of settle, they get into a groove, and they just kind of go through the motions. And I don't ever want to do that. I want to keep growing and keep improving my own skills as well as improving people around me so I can help more patients and also help other doctors get better at owning a business, growing the business, as well as treating patients better.
And how exactly do you help other doctors accomplish that? Well,
consulting, I've worked with a few guys here and there to try to help their businesses. And, unfortunately, in our profession, there's not a lot of backup plan. You either start a business and do well, or you become an associate, and that's about it. So basically consulting them on understanding where they want to go, where they currently are, and then creating a plan to bridge that gap.
Yeah, I think it's important when you understand the code and the method to find the success that you found. And I think that that's a real step that most people want to take, is they want to contribute and give back. And I think that that's something that you're saying, that is you wanted to contribute, learn more, and give back.
Yeah, and make sure that other people can compress time so they don't have to go through the struggles that I went through and try to understand it. They can understand it quicker by me going, okay, well, here's what I foresee based on what I know from my own history. But yeah, I want to give back and make sure people, really compress time and get better quicker.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool to be able to give people the things. It's kind of like being that dad that gives their kids things that they never had. Like, I'm going to make sure my kid has this and this and this. And that's kind of how we have to look at the future of chiropractic, is we have to look at like, hey, I went through this struggle. We need to make people more successful quicker.
Right. And successful in their own way. Don't force them to be a certain thing. I look at a lot of the training programs, and a lot of them say you have to be a certain way. Well, that's why I say I define where they want to go. What is your dream practice? And then figure out where you're at, and then you can fill that gap in between. But a lot of people have trouble defining what their dream practice is, and that's what I kind of help them do.
Yeah, that's cool, man. It's cool when you can help other people, and I think that that's one of the main reasons that Luke and I started doing the work that we do, is because we know there's a lot of people out there that need help. And one of the things I've become famous for saying is most people just don't know where to go or who to trust. And I think that when we find people that we know where to go, we know who to trust. Now the outcomes come faster.
Exactly. And, you don't want to be sold. I hate that feeling. I was talking with a guy earlier this year, and he was just trying to sell me on a package. And I just was like, look, you don't even know anything about where I'm at. You didn't ask anything about where I was going. I'm like, I'm not buying a package if you don't even know what I want, So that's where it all starts. And that's why I try to really help people, just like you guys are doing. You try to meet them where they're at and say, all right, how can we give you content and data and information in order to improve your own practice and life?
Yeah, there's nothing worse than a clueless salesman who just doesn't get their customer base. But does your coaching program can it apply to anybody, or is it only specifically for chiropractors?
Well, I wouldn't call it a coaching program. I consult them. So basically,
Consulting.
It's one-on-one. It's, hey, I'm not going to put you in a mold and say you have to do this. I think that's what coaching programs really do. They say, hey, here's our program. Here's the things you need to do. Mine's based on principles. So principles of business, principles of life. And basing everything on that, I can relate that to any profession, really. Now, on the chiropractic side, because I am a chiropractor, I can really hone it in and say, okay, based on the treatment protocols you're wanting to use, here's the things that, I foresee. And so that's how we kind of hone it in with chiropractic.
So I'm going to ask you a question that's probably a little bit off of the questions that we sent you, but I had a question specifically going to Logan College.
Yeah.
What was it like for you to go through Logan College?
Well, when I went through, it was an interesting time. They were transitioning, trying to add more space. There was a lot of construction going on. We were one of the bigger classes that they had ever had at the time. There were, in my opinion, a lot of people that got pushed through. They were more interested in how many people we have as opposed to the quality of people we have. For instance, and I'm not saying anything bad about the college because I don't have a ton to compare it to. I have been to Life once, and I've heard other people from other colleges tell me their experiences, but I can't say from personal experience and compare. But I also have to say, when I went to Logan, I was very young. I graduated high school, went to 2 years of undergrad, and I was at Logan in the accelerated science program just after I turned 19. So I graduated when I was 23.
Oh, wow.
So I was very immature at the time. I mean, I was smart and I was dedicated, but I was also immature. And so I didn't understand everything about life. So my viewpoint might be a little bit jaded, or skewed. But Logan was great. They wanted you to do well, but they really prepared you for the boards. They didn't prepare you for practice, in my opinion, or the business side, which I think is a universal issue in the chiropractic world and also other areas as well, or fields as well. For the business world is different than preparing yourself to be a chiropractor,
Amen. Everything you said there has a lot of connection to our listeners. I'm sure there's going to be people that listen to this and they're seasoned docs and they're going to say, yep. There's going to be people right now that are like, whatever quarter they're in, 9th quarter, 10th quarter, and they're going to be like, yep. And I think that there's a lot of similarity between programs when it comes to people either being underprepared in one aspect. They come out, they don't know how to run business, problem. They don't know how to adjust, problem. They don't have deep-rooted philosophy, problem. I mean, we're finding that there's ineffectiveness when we get the end product, which is the chiropractor.
Yeah, and I think there's can I tell you what I think the two biggest issues are?
Sure.
The two biggest issues are the business, understanding business and the principles of just business. I'm not talking about a chiropractor that is in a certain coaching program or anything. I'm just talking about principles of business, right? Not chiropractic business, just business in general, is one of the major issues that we face. And the other major issue is there's really, like I said, there's no backup plan. There's no backup plan where to go. There's no, hey, you failed in practice, so now you join a hospital and you get a salary. There's nothing like that. and associates tend to make way less than they really should in order for them to be able to sign a contract with somebody. They're going to make $45,000 or something like that. And I just think that's a shame. You go through all that school and you come out and that's what that's what your choices are: start a practice or be an associate that doesn't make a ton of money. And so that's another part of the consulting side is I look at somebody that's coming out and say, let's look at the contract you're signing to make sure you know what you're getting into and do the numbers, actually do the math, because you're so tempted when you come out, oh, I'm excited, and you sign something, because you don't feel like you have any other options. But I want to change that. I want to make it to where people are proud of what they do and happy and, making money and supporting their families.
Once again, I agree with what you're saying. That's one of the reasons that we have such a fun time doing these interviews, is because a lot of the times there's not really too many contention points. But something you said when you first started out the interview with us, you were talking about the school that you went to, and you titled it appropriately. You called it Logan College. Why do you think that the trend in chiropractic is to remove chiropractic out of these college titles?
Wow, that's a really good question. Well, these are all my opinions, but when you go to a state-funded school, you got to when you're private funded, you can do kind of what you want a little bit, but when you go to a state-funded school, you have to do what the state wants you to do. And unfortunately, I believe there's a shift or a move being made to where everybody's going to become medical chiropractors, which is basically what a DO is. And DOs, if you look, they stopped doing adjustments pretty much, and now they do mostly, meds and surgery. Chiropractors aren't united. They fight amongst themselves, and because they're not united, we can't make a push in order to define exactly what it is we want to do and move forward. And if that doesn't occur, then we'll continuously confuse people. And when you say you're a chiropractor, there's a chiropractor down the street that's an upper cervical doc. There's a chiropractor down the street that does activator adjusting. There's a chiropractor. I'm more of a medical chiropractor. I work with surgeons and medical docs. There's another one down the street that works with crystals, and they're all chiropractors. It confuses the population. It confuses doctors, medical doctors, people that want to refer. And if there's not a unified front, like Abe Lincoln said, house divided won't stand, right?
Yeah, my real concern with it, and you did answer that very appropriately. My big concern with it is they're taking chiropractic out of the titles. They're taking chiropractic out of the schools. And like you said, we're going to turn a corner, and we've sold out our number one gift, which is the education of chiropractic. And when we start producing chiropractors that come out that don't understand that what they really are is a healer and that they can do it with their hands, they're super confused that they have to run some medical model and tell themselves that they're a chiropractor when chiropractor isn't medicine. A chiropractor isn't any of these things. And I don't want to get too political on your episode with you, but I do think that chiropractic has lost its way, and they're starting to parcel out the future of chiropractic with having lack of unity and lack of consistency in the messaging.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Look at a business. If you don't have consistency and unity in the messaging, then if you constantly change it, people get confused. It's that simple. If we could all just come together and say, this is a chiropractor, this is what that person does, the philosophy of it, the science of it, the art of it, all those things, and define that and say, hey, here's the next step in exactly way it's going to look as far as an office goes and that sort of thing. And I think that comes with also being able to educate students how to talk to their patients, how to educate their patients and have a unified front on the verbiage that we all use there. But that's not an easy task to do that, especially when most of the schools are just focused on passing boards. So their students have a high success rate of passing, and that way they can recruit new students and say, we have a 96% passing rate or whatever they have. You know what I mean? Because that's what it's all about. It's all business. People forget that. So it's all business.
We call those paper tigers.
Yeah.
They look good on paper, but they sure as heck can't perform in the jungle.
Right. That's exactly right. That's a fantastic analogy. And, that's why I got into the consulting side, because I went through a lot of it and understand a lot of it and can, like I said, compress that for people. And, I don't have $1 million practice because I don't want one. I have my practice set up the way I want it. I love it. I come to work. I have fun. I get to help people. And that's what I want people to understand is they have a gift. And if you can define how you want your practice, you can figure out how to go from where you are to where that is.
So do you have any favorite mantras or motivational quotes or words of wisdom that keep you fired up about what you do?
Man, I got tons of them. I believe everybody has a primary question. The question that they ask themselves subconsciously on a regular basis. And my primary question is how can I help? It's always how can I help? Whether it's with chiropractic or the mental side, trying to help somebody through a troubled time in their life or whatever. It's how can I help? And that's just what I do. But I have tons of mantras or things that I say and education things that I tell patients to that get me fired up. The fired up moment that I get is when somebody goes from, it's that aha moment when they go, oh, and they're able to understand and then take action on what they do. But I would say, how can I help is number one, and then take action is number two. Most people know what to do, they just don't do it.
So what do you think it would look like if more chiropractors took your consulting advice?
Well, I think so if I could work one-on-one with more people that want to, whatever they want to do, whether they want to be an associate, whether they want to start their own business or whatever, based on what I've gone through, which you guys, I haven't even told you my history yet, but I'll tell you in a minute. But based on what I've gone through, more chiropractors would be successful in business. And I don't mean successful like what other people think success is. I mean what they think success is. Whether it's financial or whether they have a business they love or they're happier, that's what I judge my success with them, with individuals on, is how happy are you with your life? Not just the chiropractic business, but your life. Are you happy at home? Are you happy with your kids? Are you happy with the house you have? Are you happy with the income you have? Are you happy with the associate that you hired? You know what I mean? It's about the emotion that you experience on a regular basis, and in order and experiencing that happiness at the end of the day or the year or whatever. You know what I mean? That's really what I think more people would have, because people come out, they get into practice, and then they end up being pushed into a hole of what other people say they should do, whether they join a consulting group or a coaching group or whatever, and that coaching group says, we've figured it out. This is exactly the way you should run your practice. But that's the way somebody else is running their practice. How do you want to run yours? What does it look like to you? And I think that's one of the differences, or the major difference of what I can provide.
Well, Greg, I think what we've seen now is there's a lot of people just like you that are coming to a position of prominence and success. And now we're coming at the angle of, I want to help them with what I know. There's the next person that creates their own $1 million office, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to go back and teach the next generation how to do this. Then there's these new management groups cropping up. They're like, you know what, we're going to hire really charismatic people, and we're going to go be the next, management group. I think that there's a lot of resources now, and just like you said with the languaging around the profession and the systems around the profession, I think we really need to start banding together with the influencers to create a larger ripple effect of influence and start to maybe co-manage with things with each other, to where we don't have 95 people that are coming to the market and trying to offer the next thing to people, because I think that also makes an air of confusion to who do I take advice from now?
Yeah, exactly. And what's the each individual group or each individual person is going to have their own their own agenda and outcome that they're looking for. Are they trying to, start a $1 million consulting practice or consulting group or coaching group? Are they trying to sell people on their? I mean, everybody's selling. Don't get me wrong, but what I mean selling is like convincing somebody to do something they shouldn't really do
because you think that it works.
What's that?
Because you think that it works.
Yeah, because you think it works. What I end up doing is more on my consulting side, and I wasn't hoping to talk about that, but anyway, what I do differently, I think, is, I ask questions, a lot of questions. I don't tell you this is what you need to do. I ask you, look, what do you want if you shut your eyes and envision the perfect day? What does that look like to you? And then figure out, okay, well, that's what it looks like. Great. We'll define that. Then we figure out where you are, and then we create a plan to get there based on the knowledge that I have and you have, and we create a plan to get there. And therefore, you can get there quicker. Because I've worked with a few management groups and researched other ones, and I think a lot of people get pushed into a place they don't really want to be, and they feel stuck, and they feel like they're selling. And then if you feel like you're selling, it cheapens, the chiropractic service and the outcome that you can provide for that patient.
And then ultimately, Greg, the person that's doing the selling, they fall out of love with the serving.
Of course, yeah. I mean, you can't sell somebody on something you don't totally believe in and then love doing it forever. It eventually runs its course. Even if you're making a lot of money doing it, you still eventually hate, doing what you're doing, because it's not in line with what you feel like you're put on earth to do.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Imaging Services, Chiro Thin, Universal Tractioning Systems, Chiro Moguls, Zingit Solutions, Dr. Pete Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Everest Coaching Systems, Rhino Coaching, 5-Star Management, The Goodman Factor, Chiro Health USA, Max, Mahalo Wellness, and Chiro Expert. Let's hustle.
So if everything continues the way it is right now, where is the chiropractic profession going to end up in 20 years?
I think if it continues going like it's going, I think you'll probably see a lot of medical chiropractors, a lot of medipractors that are basically merging with DOs and MDs. I think it all kind of goes in that direction. Because it's easy. That's why I think DOs ended up doing more medicine and surgery. It's easier to make money that way, and there's a fallback plan. You can be hired by a hospital. There are some hospitals that hire chiropractors, don't get me wrong, but it's not prominent. Same way with the VA. VA, I think, has 50 chiropractors right now or something like that. So it's like one per state. So there's some other options, but in general, it's either start your own practice or be an associate.
Because typically when we ask this question, we either get one of two answers, is that it's not going in a good direction, or the other side is that it's never been a better time to be a chiropractor.
Yeah. I can see how you can prove a point on both of those, but I don't think it's never been. I think the best time to be a chiropractor would have been in the 90s. Insurance was covering everything, and that's when they created the Flying 7. You know what I'm talking about that?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's when that was created. It was like roll left, roll right. How many people can we see? We get $100 a visit. Bam. Nowadays it's a lot different. We have our collection based on our production from insurance is about 50%. So what we produce, we are able to collect about 50% because the insurance is going to write off about half of it. That's a big difference than in the 90s. And I didn't practice in the 90s. I didn't practice until 2007. But that's when I did a lot of observing of different chiropractors, and I talked to those guys a lot, and they tell me all the stories and the way it was and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with headspace and, the season that you are in your life with
Yeah,
how you approach it. I think that a new grad's going to look at how they want to get out there in their community different than somebody that's been practicing for 20 years.
of course.
And I think that when you start to think about like each person has that season of life that they come into a career, I was just talking to a gal 2 days ago we interviewed, and her husband didn't go back to school till he was like, I don't know, I think she said he was 48. He just finished his chiropractic degree. You're talking about being finished at 23 years old, you know?
Yeah.
I think we have to really take a temperature on people, engage them on where are you in your chapter of life.
Yeah, actually, Grant Cardone mentioned that at the 10X Growth Conference that I went to, and he mentioned you got to always pay attention to where somebody is in the season of life when they make a comment. And the one he brought up was when, oh my gosh, the guy, Apple.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. Why am I having a problem? Anyway, Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs said, he had this famous quote, money doesn't matter. Well, that was also after he'd made like $1 billion. I mean, it was towards the end of his life when he had so much money he didn't know what to do. Well, of course, it mattered when he went and begged for money, I mean, when he was hurting so bad that he had to beg for it. So it didn't matter later on in life when he was, bloated. So you just got to always pay attention to where somebody is in their season of life. You're exactly right.
And I think that chiropractic is something that we can definitely steer in the right direction, and we can start getting a more vital. I mean, honestly, Greg, the position I stand in is I want to see more vitalistic chiropractic, and I really do believe that there's a profession out there in the medical industry that teaches people how to become anything in the medical industry, and chiropractic is a standalone profession. So
Right.
I really think that we need to figure out how to become more vitalistic in the future of chiropractic. And obviously, go out there and struggle chiropractic. Go out there and do it like you've always done. Quit taking money from the wrong people. That's my big advice. And I think that that's what's happened to the chiropractic education marketplace is it has started taking money from the wrong people and letting people control the profession that have zero interest in vitalism.
Yeah, I agree with you. And what drives me nuts the most in practice in general, most people say, oh, it's insurance, it's, whatever, different things, it's employees or whatever. What drives me the craziest, the most, if you will, is the fact that there are so many people walking around right now that I could help. So many people. I observe medical doctors. I observe surgeons, neurosurgeons, neurologists, medical pain management docs. I've observed all of them, and in the primary care world, I can treat of the musculoskeletal problems that they see. I can treat almost all of them. When they see somebody that's got a break or a tear, or they see somebody that's got an infection or whatever, I get that. That's not going to be my realm, but if they have a musculoskeletal condition, I can treat them so much more effectively. And it drives me crazy that I'll see a patient that has gone through what I call a medical triangle, which is their primary care physician. They get medication of some sort. Then they go to specialist or specialized testing, MRI, or a surgeon. And then if that doesn't need to happen, then they go to PT and then back to their primary care. There's a better approach, which I call the diamond approach. And that's where you implement chiropractic. If you go to your primary care, that's fine, get your meds. Come to me. I can assess the joint. I can make sure you're functional. If it's functional, then we can rehab the muscles with PT, and it cuts down on the amount of MRIs and X-rays and CTs and really surgeries. And that's actually the problem. The solution is actually the problem, because the hospitals, they want surgeries. They want MRIs. They want CTs. They can bill insurance for that. But there's so many times I see people, I'm like, why'd you get that? You didn't need that. Oh my gosh, it just drives me. That's what drives me crazy the most. The amount of people I could help that just don't know that I could help them because they just don't understand it. They don't know. And if they don't know, they're not going to come in. Even though I do my own online stuff and I do, educational things in my community, and it's still, if there's a preconceived notion, it's hard to overcome that sometimes.
Yeah, I think that we have to do what I've gathered mostly from our conversation today is we need to raise our young up properly. We need to get clear on what chiropractic is and what it isn't. We need to know that chiropractic is a solution for people's healthcare needs, but we also have to re-identify what chiropractic is to the people that need it. So there's no misconstrued ideas about what chiropractic is or what it isn't. And I think chiropractic, honestly, the reason that I stand so strong in the profession is because it does need to have somebody to say, you know what, let them be the medical doctors, let them be, on the team, but we're not going to be them because we already have enough of them. We need to support what we have, and that's the part that's going to save the whole health of this nation is the chiropractor. And
You're right.
I think that that's where we have to go back to ground one and ground zero is to say, you know what, let's clear up all the mess that's happened over the past however long we can remember. And let's start fresh and say, you guys do that, we do this. And let's chiropractic save the healthcare profession if that's what the chiropractor's intended to do.
Well, this is kind of funny. I got a great story for you real quick. I'm sure you'll like this. So I've been working with the hospitals. There's two of them in my community, pretty big hospitals. And I've been working with one of them for a period of time trying to get chiropractic integrated into their referral programs, right? So I spoke with the medical director, and I won't say his name, but I was having a conversation with him, and I said, you were in private practice for how long? And he said, I think 25 years, something like that. I said, and what did you treat the most or what did you treat on a daily basis? He said, the normal stuff. I treated obesity and heart problems and high blood pressure and cholesterol issues, and he went on and on, arthritis issues, blah, blah. And I said, and what would be the primary cause of those things? Or what did you see that the cause of those things was most? And he said, they're preventable issues. He said it. I was like, like, yeah, you're right. They're preventable issues. If we would, I tell patients all the time, I said, I work on joint mobility, muscle tone, and nutrition. If you would work more on that, you wouldn't need me as much. I mean, literally.
Yeah, but we live in this implied world, Greg. We live in this implied world where people are just supposed to do what they should do because they know it's good for them. And
Right.
That's the problem with, once again, go back to having kids. I don't have kids, but I use the analogy a lot. Like, if you have kids and you're said, hey, just take care of yourself when you hurt, we're not telling people to be proactive. And I had a good conversation yesterday with the guy about how dentistry parallels chiropractic. And we need to start leveraging more into the spinal hygiene of what we do and being accountable so we don't get all cruddy and nerve pain and headaches and degeneration or the things that you don't want to see on an x-ray.
Exactly. Well, and that's common, people Google things and that sort of thing too, but it's a common misconception as well, which I hear all the time. As you get older, your spine degenerates. And I said, really? So let me ask you a question. Have all the joints in your body been in your body the same amount of time? And they say, well, yeah. And I was like, so if it's an aging process, shouldn't they all be degenerative at the same place? Shouldn't they be all be as degenerative as the next? Yeah. So if it's just time, they should all degenerate at the same rate. So it maybe it's function that breaks down because one can degenerate and one next to it won't. And that just really kind of, it illuminates light on it. They go, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And I hear that so often during the day in the office. Now, that makes a lot of sense. I don't hear a lot at home because, my wife and kids don't get to say that to me a lot. But, in the office, I hear, that makes a lot of sense. And it's just because it's simple explanations. And once they get that, they become patients for life. And that's the other part I was talking about earlier was, teaching chiropractors to be able to educate patients in a simple way, but also holding ourselves, accountable as chiropractors to be, strong in our own profession and to not shy away, to stand up for ourselves and to feel like we're important. You know what I mean? Have respect for the profession. I think so many chiropractors feel like they're just kind of like a glorified massage therapist, and I hate that. I'm like, no, you're a freaking chiropractor, man. You know more than a lot of MDs do. A lot of different professions know about the function of joints and how they're put together and all that. And so, I hate to be a rah-rah session, but they do. They know more, and they should act like they know more, and they should feel confident in their profession and themselves.
So we're going to change gears a little bit now, and we're going to talk about some marketing. What are some of your favorite marketing strategies that you just couldn't do without?
Well, number one is internal referrals. I mean, that's number one. If you're not doing a good enough job with your patients to where they want to tell other people, then you should really reassess how you're interacting and how you're treating your current patients. Because last year, 83% of our patients came from referrals, came from other people. Some of my favorite ways to market, though, are being on a stage in front of people, being able to educate in that realm. Number one, it puts you in a great light. You have a little bit of confidence. People look at you differently. But number two, you're able to talk to multiple people at one time. And then the other one is there's a lot of online stuff, but live videos, making yourself the chiropractor, making yourself available for answers to people is my favorite. So, but I like to educate. I like to talk. I have a lot of data that I can give and a lot of experience. So I would say those are probably the top three for me. It's internal referrals, being in front of people live, and then doing things online, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook Live, those type of things.
Yeah, I think what you're sharing with people is super important for them to pay attention to. Whenever you can get the message down from one to one is great, but like when you said you speak from a stage, that's speaking from one to many. Think about how many more lives you affect when more people can tune into one thing you're saying. And that's what translates over to the digital platforms, is now we can take one video recording, like you mentioned, and we can disseminate that out to massive groups of people. Like when we do our Facebook Live with each other, that's going to be able to be broadcast out to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And, just having the access point of knowing that you can talk one-to-one, which gets you those internal referrals, which is awesome for business growth. But it's like knowing your different angle now that if you aren't doing things on the digital platforms, if you aren't speaking on stages, then you are not getting the maximum potential for yourself, and you're not going to meet your community where they are.
Yeah. I think giving content is the overall idea. It's caring for people and giving content that is relevant. And that also puts you in a better light. I'm not a big fan of all the gimmicky new patient things that I've seen from different groups over the years. The putting a box out, win a free consultation or win something and collecting the leads that way. It just kind of confuses people, and I don't think it puts us in a great light. But I would say, the best ways to do it would be content-driven, caring-driven, that you're really trying to be there for those people, and they'll feel that. It'll come across.
So now let's talk about you a little bit. What are some of your hobbies? What do you do for fun? Are you in the middle of any good books right now?
So I constantly read. I'm in the middle of doing a John Maxwell series. It's an online thing, but I just finished a thing with Pete Vargas called Stages. It teaches you a little bit how to create your your stage presentation to where you get a better result. But a little bit about me, I love going out and helping people in any way I can. It's just something I love to do. And I think that's why I fit in the consulting realm so well, and also why I wanted to do this with you guys, to help as many people as possible. I love to golf. I actually play guitar and sing as well, professionally. So I play at a local casino, acoustic guitar, sing classic rock and alternative stuff, and have a great time. In fact, I'm playing tomorrow night. So come out to Cape Girardeau and watch me play guitar tomorrow at the casino.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. It's a blast. It's a good time. And so I love my family, love hanging out with them, do a lot of stuff with them, and I love traveling. Traveling's probably my favorite thing, seeing new cultures, new people. I mean, at the end, at the end of somebody's life, if you look back, you're always looking at experiences. They don't ever really talk about how much money they made or the time they spent with, in doing work. It's generally the experiences they've had and the people that they've touched. And that's what I really want to make sure I do in my life.
So we're starting to come to the tail end of our episode. What are some website links or online bits of information where people can find out more about you?
Sure. So you can email me at any time. If you have any questions, if you need anything, just email me at Dr. So Dr. Greg Pursley. So DrGreg Pursley at hotmail.com. That'd be the easiest way to get to me. You can go online, search me on Facebook. I'm on there. I do a lot of educational things. My clinic name is called PC Wellness Centers, and you can go on there and search on Facebook as well or Twitter, see some of the stuff I'm doing and some of the educational things. But those are the best ways.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing how people can get in touch with you and how we can start getting you more in the flow state. I would like to see you get more opportunities to share your message on other platforms. I know that that's what you're looking to do right now, is to make a bigger awareness for yourself to where your message can get to more people. So I thank you for reaching out to us and getting an interview scheduled with Chiro Hustle.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And it's been fun learning about you guys and what you're doing. And I hope I can help you guys in any way in the future. Just let me know.
We will definitely do that. And before we all jump off the line, is there anything you wanted to talk about that we just didn't ask you?
Well, I mentioned in the middle my history, so I'll kind of give that real quick. It should only take like 1 minute. But back in 2007, I started my practice. In 2008, the economic downturn hit. Also, my son was born in 2008, which was my second child, and he was born with dwarfism. And out of the next year, he spent about 6 months in the hospital up in St. Louis, which is a couple hours away from where I live. And so he ended up having a trach put in, an event which helped him breathe. It was considered full life support. And over the next 4 or 5 years, I had the challenge of keeping a practice going, trying to grow it to where my family had an income, and also focusing on my family, keeping them together, and keeping him alive. So an update to that, he's 10 years old now, almost 11. He doesn't have a trach anymore. He breathes on his own and everything. Obviously dwarfism's still there, but it shows you that if you have a passion, it doesn't matter what happens in your life, things will happen unexpectedly, but you continue pushing, you continue fighting, learning, growing, and you will come out the other side, and you'll be better for it. And you'll learn, and you'll grow, and you'll be a better person, can help other people in a better way. So that's kind of the backstory that I didn't add earlier.
Well, I'm glad we got to hear it, because that's probably the best part of the story.
Yeah, so hopefully people stay to the end and hear it at the end.
Well, Greg, that pretty much wraps up this episode of Chiro Hustle. I want to thank you for being our guest today, and we want you to enjoy the rest of your afternoon, all right?
Hey, you guys too. I'll be treating people all afternoon and helping change lives one person at a time.
Well, Dr. Greg, thanks for making some time for us, and we look forward to the next opportunity, okay?
Yes, sir. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.